History was made today when Admiral Linda Fagan shattered the military glass ceiling and became the new commandant of the U.S. Coast Guard. Fagan is now the first woman and mother to lead any branch of the U.S. Armed Forces. She has served in the Coast Guard for nearly 4 decades across all 7 continents. Fagan says one of her top priorities will be increasing diversity in the Coast Guard. President Biden noted the importance of this historic moment, saying, "It's about time."
We currently have nearly 40% women enrolled at the Coast Guard Academy. I'm really excited about the talent and the diversity that I see coming through the Academy. My daughter is in the Coast Guard as a lieutenant, and there is just nothing but opportunity for her and all of the men and women that have joined the service. I'm really excited about the future as we look ahead.
A few years later,
President Donald Trump fired the head of the U.S. Coast Guard, Admiral Linda Fagan. She was the first female leader of a U.S. Armed Forces branch in American history. Benjamin Huffman, the acting Homeland Security Secretary, revealed the ousting in a memo on Trump's first day in office, saying the 4-star admiral was out and Admiral Kevin E. Lundy was in as the service's acting commander. A senior DHS official told Fox News Fagan was terminated over a failure to address border threats, delays, and cost overruns in the Coast Guard's icebreaker and helicopter programs, and DEI efforts taking attention away from operational imperatives.
What's up, y'all? Gerald here, creator of Gospel Chops and your host for this YouTube channel, back with another video. Now, y'all, I am here to announce, you may have heard it already, but I'm here to announce that Linda Fagan, head of the United States Coast Guard, has been fired. You know, that's Donald Trump's thing, y'all. If you've ever watched The Apprentice, you know that's his thing. He ain't got no problem firing people who don't perform. And here we are, y'all, just a couple days into this new administration, and this man is having his way, as he should, because he was voted with an overwhelming majority, not only in the Electoral College, but the popular vote is what he won in this country. And this man has a mandate to do what is right by this country. And I gotta say, I don't care if this woman was the first woman to head any military division. I don't care that she was a mother, a wife, whatever she might be. I don't care. You got a job to do, lady. And womanhood ain't got nothing to do with it unless y'all out here promoting DEI. I need the best qualified candidate to be the head of the United States Coast Guard. And when I'm here on the West Coast and we're looking at Southern California, we're seeing boats ride up to the beach in Southern California full of immigrants. And they hop out the boat as they crash on the beach. All these immigrants pop out and run off into the neighborhoods. I'm wondering, who's guarding the coast? Well, that's the job of the Coast Guard, is it not? Well, Linda Fagan, you ain't been doing your job. You are fired. And we glad about it. Don't matter that you're a woman. Nope, that ain't got nothing to do with it. It has everything to do with the security of this nation, and you are not fit for the job. Now, it may not be all on you. It may be that you were wedded to an ideology that led you to make bad decisions. But either way, you have let this country down. You have let the Coast Guard down. And this next administration ain't having it.
Will return the Constitution to do his evil and wrongness.
Let's put some stuff up here. He was very excited about the end diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives in the federal government. What's the impact?
Yeah, so that's obviously very bad. It's particularly evil to. I always think of prisoners, people who are incarcerated who have changed, who have transitioned. According to this, you're going to take trans women and put them in male prisons. What do we think is going to happen to them there?
Yeah.
That's not going to be a good day.
Yeah.
So I think that this is a thing that has real impact. There's also a real obvious equal protection challenge. And so, again, Trump will do this. He will be sued. This is one of the ones that could be, if not completely stopped, delayed. But there will be people who suffer unconscionable pain because of what he's doing, and not in the kind of like, oh, somebody just called Gracie George. No. These are people who are going to be hurt and physically assaulted because of Trump's executive order.
Now, y'all, I don't know who decided to put Ellie Mistel and Joy Reid together, but oh my God, is this a match made in hell? that this man would be out here caping for transformer inmates. Listen, when I get in the ear of your children and I try to give good counsel to these young boys out here and these young girls, I don't care whether you're a he or a she or a he, she, a sir, ma'am. I'm going to tell you to keep your tail out of prison, period. And you won't have to deal with these issues that Ellie Mistel is out here caping for. Now, to my knowledge, Ellie ain't never been behind prison bars. He ain't never been in a cell. Why is he out here caping for transformers that are men that are dwelling in women's prison? Have y'all seen the news reports? These dudes say, oh, Your Honor, you're sentencing me to 10 years, 20 years. They know they can't make it in Gym Pop. So they say, oh, all of a sudden I'm a transformer. Send me over there with the women folk. Next thing you know, everybody in the cell block pregnant. Even some of the prison guards pregnant. And here Ellie Mistel is out here spewing this foolishness in front of the Congolese queen of foolishness herself, Joy Reid. Y'all, the left is going to have a hard time getting over this change. We understand it. It's going to be a bumpy transition for them. But they're going to have to come to the hard realization, the hard truth. They're going to have to accept it. It's a new day in America. And normal is about to be normal again.
I want to go now to some breaking news. A Department of Homeland Security official confirming that the Commandant of the U.S. Coast Guard has been removed from her position over leadership deficiencies. That was a quote. And operational failures. I have extensively reported on the Coast Guard's cover-up of sexual assault cases. We don't know if that played a role at all in this. CNN's Natasha Bertrand joins us now for more. I mean, this is a pretty significant move, Natasha.
It is, Pamela, if not just because it really shows that this could be a sign of things to come in terms of how President Trump and his administration deal with military leaders that they feel are perhaps focusing too much on diversity and inclusion initiatives, which is one of the stated reasons, according to this DHS official, why Admiral Fagan was relieved of her duties as Commandant of the Coast Guard. Now, we did ask the Department of Homeland Security for reasons why she was relieved, and they did send us a list that included things like failure to address border security threats, prioritization of those DEI initiatives, which Secretary of Defense, future Secretary of Defense, if he is confirmed, Pete Hegseth has said is going to be one of his priorities in removing from the department once he does get installed here, as well as Operation Fouled Anchor, which is that investigation into sexual assault and sexual abuses committed at the Coast Guard Academy that was covered up by the Coast Guard beginning in around 2018. Now, Admiral Fagan, she was not directly involved in that. However, she did signal to members of Congress last year when she was grilled on the sexual assault investigation that was not disclosed to Congress that she was aware of certain aspects of it. And according to the Department of Homeland Security, that is one reason why they felt like she needed to be terminated as part of her in her position there. But still, you know, I think the broader picture here is that this is the first kind of, termination of a senior military leader that we have seen that has been explicitly kind of linked to the promotion of those diversity, equity, and inclusion programs within the military. And in fact, this is not the first time that the Coast Guard has been targeted by Trump's allies. Back in August, former GOP Representative Matt Gaetz sent a letter to the Department of Homeland Security raising concerns about Fagan's alleged focus on these initiatives over, for example, other more important things like, he said, recruiting and focusing on interdicting drugs at the borders.
Y'all, I'm sure the left is going to come out and try to make this a DEI issue and a gender issue. But the truth of the matter is this woman had deficiencies in her department. She had recruiting issues in her department. She had mission issues in her department. Because all she needed to do was be at the top of the pyramid and be a woman. That was the only qualification. She didn't have to be qualified to guard the coast. God forbid that we would expect the Coast Guard to actually guard the coast. No, it was exposed that this woman had deficiencies in her department. She was clearly unqualified for the position that she was placed in. Y'all, recruitment issues? Of course, you have recruitment issues. Don't nobody want to follow this weak leadership. Don't nobody want to be a part of a pansy Coast Guard? Especially alpha males who join the military to let off some of that masculine energy. No, when I was coming up, I used to be inspired by those commercials I'd see on TV. They say, hey, we in the Army, we do more before 9 a.m. than most people do all day. I say, wow, really? How do you do that? I was just a kid, but I was intrigued. I was inspired. Nothing about this woke military is inspiring, and Donald Trump has taken office, y'all, and he has vowed with his DOD Secretary Pete Hegseth, who is going to get confirmed, I'm sure of it. He has vowed to change things, and he is already starting to change things by firing people like this, who never should have been in place in the first place. Well, here we are with a new day for America, and that includes a new military structure, a new military ideology, a new military mission. Oh, and I'm glad about it. And look, I'm not anti-woman. Listen, if you can lift that weight, then you deserve to be there. If you can run that mile, you deserve to be there. But we ain't going to give you 20 minutes to run the mile. No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to lower the weight limit to 50 pounds. No, you need to be in there humping. You need to be in there pressing. You need to be in there pushing. If you can push the weight, along with the males that have the same and equal requirement, well, God bless you. Go out there and be the strongest military you can be. I support it all. It's not gender-based. It's based on a shared ideology to protect this country and defeat the enemy. Anybody understand that? Because I think the new president understands it. I think the vice president understands it. And I think the new DOD secretary understands it. Oh, it's a new day. And I'm excited along with plenty of other Americans. I feel your energy. I share your energy. Let's get these DEI hires out of our military. Let's get these fairies out of our military. Because when you're in that foxhole, you don't need nobody thinking about how desirable the other soldiers are in the foxhole, which I need you to defeat the enemy. Stay focused on the mission. Can we do that? Yo, I'm going to stop there before I go too far.
No, I think it's appalling that the head of Homeland Security is firing the very Admiral Commandant of the Coast Guard who took this issue of fouled anchor that you guys broke as a story. Why? Because it was being covered up. Literally, issues of sexual assault and sexual harassment at the Coast Guard Academy and at sea, and people covered it up. The only reason we know about it is because CNN broke the news. Now we get a new commandant, the first woman commandant in the history of an armed forces of our nation to serve. She stood up and said, this is a problem and we have to deal with it. And so literally tried to move forward with the right kind of response in the Coast Guard to this issue of sexual harassment and sexual assault. And today she's being fired for, instead of covering it up, deciding that this needed to be exposed and the Coast Guard needed to deal with this issue. So I think it's the wrong decision. It's the wrong decision by Homeland Security. She did a good job. In fact, the last commandant was the one who did cover it up. I think he admitted to you that he covered it up. So what are we doing here today? Firing somebody who was on the job, helping a Coast Guard that has to have a basic diverse workforce. And one of the things they need in a diverse workforce is to protect those interests of women.
Y'all let me know what you think about this. I'd love to know your thoughts on the firing of this obvious unqualified DEI hire. Let me know what you think. And don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share the video so we can get more people involved in the conversation, y'all. And like I always say, always remember and never forget, without the gospel, it's just jobs. Until next time. Peace.